What up, everybody? Welcome to Chop and Brew. I am Chip Walton.
And I'm Barry Salem.
And this is a Chop and Brew, a true Chop and Brew tasting note. We are about to smash some venison jerky. Both made by Barry, both sent from Milwaukee. I'm about to go into dry January. This is the last day I could do this tasting note with you, Barry. So I'm glad that we fit it in.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this. This is going to be great.
Tell me about, since we're imbibing a little bit, tell me about your smash beer, and then we're going to talk about the fun story behind your venison jerky adventure.
Oh, okay.
First off, cheers, bro.
Cheers.
Clink.
Yeah, right in. Well, the smash beer is pretty simple. A few weeks ago, when you let us know about that Omega Yeast meeting that you had, they introduced that Sundew yeast, and I thought to myself, well, what could I do with that? That seems pretty interesting. So I put together a quick little smash recipe. It's Munich malt and Mandarina Bavaria hops, and just added the Sundew yeast to it. Turned out pretty good, I think. It's a nice balance. It's got a little bit of fruitiness, but there's just enough hoppiness to kind of balance that out, so it's not, it doesn't become like a big fruit bomb or anything like that. I kind of thought with the Sundew yeast that you would end up with a lot of fruity esters coming out of that. So I did 12 pounds. I made a 5-gallon batch. I did 12 pounds of Munich malt, and then used 3.5 ounces of Mandarina Bavaria hops. Did 2 ounces at 60 minutes, did an ounce at 20, and then a half ounce at 5.
Oh, kind of like a classic hopping schedule. Remember when we all started homebrewing and there was like 60, 45, and 15-minute editions, and now it's like 60 and flame out, or like no hops and everything in Whirlpool.
Yeah, I know. It's really changed a lot, but on this particular one, I just figured, well, I'll keep it. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, so I keep it as traditional as possible and play by the rules.
So I would say, so the Sundew. So what Barry's referencing is that my day job at Northern Brewer, we interviewed or had a discussion with Omega Yeast after they released Bananza and Sundew. Sundew is supposed to give off like stone fruit, strawberry, and in our test brew we used it in IPA. But it was interesting that Brad, our like in-house R&D brewer, was like, I want this in a dark mild. And it's really cool because you didn't necessarily put it in a dark mild, but between the malt bill of this and kind of the lighter touch of carbonation, it comes off like a pub ale. It really does, like a really malty, mild, but with a lot more body. And I think that's because of Munich. That's the other thing. Like, so this is 100% Munich, which you rarely ever hear out loud.
Yeah. I figured I'm just gonna use something that's a malty character, and you usually get a lot of malty characters from a Munich malt. So I just figured it would give off a nice color too. It wouldn't be too light. I wanted to go with a little bit of a darker color.
Yeah.
We had some friends over last night and probably had about 3 or 4 glasses each.
Smashed it.
Smashed it.
Yeah,
and it is crushable. I mean, I think it came in at about 5.5%, so it's not like super alcoholic.
Okay.
Not a lot of alcohol in it, but just enough. I think would be a great beer for the summer more than the winter.
Really, I can see that. This would be good on a firkin or a pin too, giving it more of that kind of cask conditioned. It's interesting because I've seen a couple of 100% Munich beers go not quite this well. So it's interesting. I wonder if the hops supporting it, the Sundew being this interesting kind of slice out of a different yeast. So we'll come back to that. We'll let it hang out. Let's talk about what's in the bowl, man. Oh, boy. And it's been
We got a
hard
little
for me to
of both.
leave this behind. Like, I actually caught Elsa eating some the other day, and I was like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but don't eat all that. I need at least one piece for tasting notes with Barry. So when we're done here, she'll be happy because she can like tear into the rest.
That's what I have left out of the bags that I made.
Yeah.
And I made about 5 pounds, so there's not much left over here either. I had to really force myself to save a couple of pieces for this.
I love it because it's not insanely salty, but let's start at the beginning. Tell us about your hunt this year, man. Tell me about your buck.
Oh, geez. Well, I got my buck during the muzzleload season. So I went out for rifle season, wasn't expecting a lot because we have a lot of guys that come out on the property. We've got about 200 acres out on the western side of Wisconsin. And so I wasn't expecting much for rifle season, but I always expect to see or get something the second weekend or even muzzleload. So I went out muzzleloading, and I think I was talking to you guys when I was driving out that day. I got out in the afternoon. I actually left around 11 o'clock in the morning after work. I got into my stand at 3:15, and at 4 o'clock, a giant 8-point buck showed up, walked out into the field, and I got him at 50 yards. And I'll tell you what, eating this jerky makes my back feel a lot better because my back was sore for like a week dragging that thing out of the woods. It was about, I'd say it was probably 190, maybe 210. That's how heavy it was. It's a big buck. And so right away I had jerky in mind, to make. And then just last Tuesday, I got a doe. So I have 2 deer in the freezer now. And there's going to be a lot of jerky and a lot of snack sticks. So I'll be sending you out some more. This was just like the first test batch, just to see how it would turn out. And there's 2 different recipes. I sent you 2 different types, so we can discuss that if you want.
Yeah, I've got them pulled up. So is there 2 different ones within this?
Yeah, I think I sent you the ones that don't have.
The ones with the pepper seeds.
That's the bourbon. That's the bourbon jerky recipe.
Okay.
And the ones without is the basic.
Oh, I did not even realize that this whole time. I feel like all I have left are pieces with pepper seeds on them. So, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just talk basic, though, about your process. And you sent me some pictures. So this is smoked, not dehydrated, right?
Yeah, this is smoked in a pellet smoker.
Okay. So how do you cut just tell me the process for people that obviously not everybody hunts, but everybody might know a hunter, or even if you just go buy meat that's applicable to this, like what's the process?
Well, I used the cuts of meat that I used were the rump roasts and the neck roasts off the buck. And you basically slice it maybe a 1/4 inch thin. You don't want to slice with the grain. You want to slice against the grain so that it's more tender in the end. If you slice with the grain and you dry it out, it's going to be really tough and hard to tear off. Just slice it in 1/4 inch strips, against the grain, and then of course, put it in your marinade. You're going to marinate it for 8 hours. So the basic jerky recipe is just a 1/4 cup of soy sauce, 1/4 cup of Worcestershire. If I said that right, that's a hard one.
Also, I have a running joke. I just call it the woof, 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 woof.
W sauce.
There's always another syllable. You're always like, wait, Worcestershire?
Worcestershire. Okay. Yeah, Worcestershire. Yeah, if you want to go on it. And then 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. And then I held the black pepper. You can put the black pepper into the marinade if you want, but I held that back. And then I sprinkled that on top of the one side.
Oh, okay.
And then we put it in, kind of like you're seasoning a brisket or something, a little bit of salt and pepper on top before you put it in.
Yeah, like a dry rub.
We put it in. Yeah. And we put it in and let it sit for like 4 hours at 170. The internal temp of the meat got to about 160, and then we were done. So once it reaches about 160, you're set. It doesn't dry it out like super dry. Keep some of the moisture, which is what I like. I don't like super dry jerky because you're chewing on it for hours and then you're picking it out of your teeth.
Yeah,
you
the
know?
first thing I noted, the first piece I bit was it is very like pliable, pullable, like it pulls. It's not like you said, you don't have to sit there with it in your mouth and like salivate it to make it fall apart. It is like a preserved piece of cooked meat.
Right. And if you look at it really close, I don't know if you can see this, but if you look at it really close, you can actually see a little bit of a smoke ring on it. It took on some of the color of the smoke, kind of like a brisket would.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it really sucked it in. And the wood that we used was just hickory.
And the other thing I noted, and I think I was maybe noting this on the basic jerkies now that I look at the two of them, is very not salty, which I love because I've had so many just over salt jerky. But this, the salt's pretty much coming from the soy sauce and the Worcestershire sauce, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we sprinkled a little bit of sea salt on the top with the pepper, but very little.
And then
Just
the one
using
with the pepper flakes is the bourbon
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
with the little white specks.
Yeah, and that recipe is a little bit more involved. So,
Oh, there's beer in it. Yeah, tell me about that one.
yeah, that's the Founders KBS bourbon barrel stout. So I used a quarter cup of that, and then I put a quarter cup of Maker's Mark bourbon in the bag. So you just put it in one of these bags, basically, just a 1 gallon bag. You put your marinade in there. And
Must have snowmen, by the way.
yeah, definitely. We got a lot of snow here over the last week. The bourbon jerky recipe is 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, the black pepper I held off, then a tablespoon of molasses, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, then the Maker's Mark, the Founders KBS, and then a cup of soy, or a quarter cup of soy.
Ooh.
And it's a little sweeter.
I was going to say, it's noticeably sweeter now that I look at the recipe. Molasses, brown sugar, the bourbon barrel stout's going to have some sugar to it. The Maker Mark bourbon probably has some essence of sweetness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one is, but there's red pepper flakes. So you just freestyled that part?
Yeah, I threw the red pepper flakes in. Oh, yeah, I forgot to add those into the recipe. I'm
You
sorry.
sneaky bastard.
Yeah, you can write that in. So I
Did you make these up? Are these yours?
I looked at several different recipes on the internet.
Internet, man.
Yeah, and then kind of a lot of them were like they wanted to make them like burn your face off hot.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I don't mind a little bit of spice, but I'm not your 2 million Scoville unit guy.
Yeah.
So I took the best of these different recipes that I found and then kind of paired it to my liking. And with the bourbon jerky recipe, I realized it was going to be pretty sweet because we were adding a lot of sugar in there, the molasses and the brown sugar and everything like that. So I thought, well, maybe I should just throw some red pepper flakes on it just to kind of give it a little bit of zing, try to get some of that sweet balance out. So you get the sweet in the beginning, and then on the back of your tongue at the end, after you're done chewing it, you got all the red pepper flakes kind of lighten your mouth up a little bit.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. It's definitely, it finishes with that heat, which the other one doesn't. The other one just is like this really nice ride through each bite. Just like barely salty, more savory. This one, like we both said, like hits you sweet, and now the afterburn is more of a burn.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't mind that much, but anything more than that, yeah, then you're just not enjoying the taste of the meat anymore.
Right.
And that's what I want, because jerky or venison is so good, in my opinion, anyhow. I love it. And can't get enough of it. So that's why I went out and got 2 deer this year. So make up for the last couple of years. 0 for the last 2 years. So yeah, kind of making up for lost time here.
So if people aren't hunters, would you suggest they go out of their way to find venison at a meat shop? Or do you think there's a cut of beef? Like what would be most substitutable here?
I would think you'd want to get a cut of beef that's going to be as lean as possible because, venison is very lean. There's barely any fat. There's hardly any marbling in the meat, whatsoever. So you're going to look for something that's a little lean, or if you usually can't find venison in the stores, but you can find elk and you can find bison. And if you find those two, that would be a good substitute for doing this recipe, and trying to get as close to venison as possible.
That's what I'm talking about. Cool. Again, you say cut it quarter-inch thick.
Quarter-inch thick, and you want to cut it against the grain. So if you got a roast that's sitting on your table and the grain's running this way, you want to turn that and cut it, the opposite direction, or you cut it, against it basically. So it would be just like when you slice your brisket or whatever. You don't want to slice it with the grain. You want to slice across it. Yeah.
That keeps what moisture there is in between the cuts versus leaking out of all of these points, right?
Right. And then also it just makes the jerky more chewable. If you slice with the grain and then you put that and dehydrate it or smoke it or whatever you're going to do, you're going to end up with a piece of jerky that you're literally going to be trying to tear, to get a piece off. Because once it dries with that muscle, that grain in the muscle, it just becomes super sinewy.
I was going to ask that because you have been on a dehydrator kick. We have a couple of pictures of you dehydrating everything.
I've got it going on back right now. I don't know if you can hear it running, but I got some apples in there right now.
Apples, peppers. What else did you have on there? Do you have pineapple rings, or was that the apple without the core? That was probably the apple.
It was the apple without the core. I did that first. And then I did, I've got some habanero peppers sitting over here that I'm going to do a little later on after I'm done with these apples. But yesterday I did strawberries and bananas, and I got to tell you, man, that smelled great. The entire house in the basement just smelled wonderful.
So what would the treatment be if somebody wanted to, say, dehydrate this jerky versus, say, they don't have a smoker?
If you want to dehydrate, let me grab something really quick.
Okay.
If you want to dehydrate it, but you still want to get that smoky flavor, you're going to use something like this. So you're going to rub your meat with this first before you cut it and let it sit for a little bit, then cut it and throw it in your marinade. And maybe put a little bit of this. It's wood-fired hickory seasoning and rub, basically.
Does it add salt too, or is that just like a somehow only smoke and nothing else?
It's got some salt in it.
Okay.
But it's like, I don't have my glasses with me right now. I'm getting old.
The Chop and Brew Progressive Lenses Club.
Yeah.
I feel you.
It's hard to read right now, but there's soy sauce in this and some other things. But you're not going to get that smoky flavor if you just put it into this marinade. Yeah. I think that's what really tops it off. I mean, the marinade is great, but that smoky flavor, that's what really makes that, that's what makes this really good. So you could add liquid smoke also to your marinade, but you got to be really, really, just a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But yeah, if you rub your roast or your neck roast or whatever piece of meat that you're going to use with this and let it sit for a while, it'll take on that smoky flavor, and then you can throw it in the marinade. If you want to throw a little lettuce in the marinade too, that's fine. But you're not going to get that smoky flavor with the dehydrator unless you do that. So that's the difference, and that's why I did it on my buddy Robert's pellet smoker. We made a day of it. We just hung out and drank beer all day and watched these things, do their thing on the smoker.
That sounds like the life. So the jerky with the beer. Let's do a little tasting to wrap it up. What do you think?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Especially on the spicy one, the sweet and spicy one. The smoke really pops out because the sweetness is kind of equal. Actually, the smoke and the spice, because the beer sets up like the sweet layer. So now you don't really taste the sweetness of the jerky. It allows the smoke and the spice to pop. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed. Well, I probably would have guessed it if I thought long enough about it, but I'm still surprised.
Yeah, this might be a beer that I'll have to brew and keep with the jerky at all times.
Or maybe you got to take it on the hunt for good luck.
Well, next year, yeah. I mean, I wore my Lucky Devil's Tower T-shirt to both hunts, and I got a deer both times. So that shirt goes with me for now on.
Sounds like you got to get a chest tattoo of it, is what I'm hearing. Permanent
Yeah,
good luck charm.
It was a good year, and on top of the 2 deer, I also got a turkey. So we had the turkey for Thanksgiving, and that was really good too. So it was a very good year hunting. Considering how 2020 went, I turned 2020 into something pretty good.
I should also say for the record that I'm leaving 3 pieces of this for Elsa and Mommers instead of eating it, which is what I really want to do. So
happy wife.
Before my next session with Don O, I'm going to be eating some Triscuits. All right, awesome. I like your shirt, Barry. I wore one of my Christmas presents just for the occasion.
I'm going to need a new one soon. This one's getting worn out.
I'm going to have to make you some, man. I'm out of those, but I'll put in an order just for you. You're cool with us sharing those recipes?
Yeah.
All
right. I'm out there.
Look for them at the link in the video description. Woo-hoo! But I love you, Barry Salem. I love you.
Love you too, buddy. Chop for chop, root for droop. Woo!
Buck for buck. Peace. I'll see you in the space bar.
Yes, sir.